Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. Hey, Team Healthy. Glad to be here with you today for another episode of Unbound. And by the way, keep in mind that our series here of Unbound is all prompted by you. When you send in your questions and comments, I kind of put them together in some categories and then I respond to them. So it allows me to speak into your needs in a very real-time kind of way. Today, we're going to be zeroing in on the fear-based element of narcissism. You've heard us talk about how narcissism can be driven by many different kinds of things. Well, today, we're going to examine the fear that tends to go into the making of narcissism. And once you see it, you can't unsee it because, hardly any of them are going to say, yes, I'm quite afraid. In fact, if anything, they're going to come out in overpowering and dominating kinds of ways. But let's take a look at this and see if we can break this down. And I'm hoping it'll give you some good insight as to what you might be dealing with in your personal life. Now, the first person, I have three different comments and questions here. The first person chimes in and says, one thing I've learned through your teachings is that defensiveness is fear. Okay, good insight, good awareness. I'm glad you picked up on that. Typically, a person, particularly that narcissistic controlling individual, may not have this kind of trembling kind of an attitude, but defensiveness is something that shows up in their world over and over and over. So spot on to say that. And then this person goes on to say, that makes so much sense. I can't discuss anything of substance with my sister without her becoming defensive as if I'm her enemy. What gives? Why would she need to be so defensive with me, especially since I'm one of the few people in her life who actually cares about her? Okay, now, see that? I'm going to take it at face value. One of the few people who actually cares. The implication is this sister may have been somebody who's had her fear of rejection or strain or question marks or, people walking away from her. And so you have this person who says, I do my best to be kind toward my sister, but when I talk about anything that has any substance, here comes that wall of defensiveness. What's going on? Now, let's keep in mind one of my favorite phrases, that there's no such thing as no communication. When you speak up to another individual, and it may be mild, it may be something like, hey, there's something that's kind of bothering me, or instead of doing this, can we try this instead? You let it be known, I'm not quite on the same page as you. Is that supposed to be shocking or surprising? And my thing is, well, as long as I'm going to be out there with other individuals, variety is built into the whole equation. Of course, we're not going to be on the same page. And you may feel or think or perceive differently. And in fact, it'd be terrible if we all thought exactly alike. And so when our differences show up, let's talk. Let's put it out there. But when the narcissist hears or picks up on the fact that you and I are on the same page and now you actually want to talk about it, it's going to show up typically as anger. And they may say something like, you're always getting on my case. And you're always trying to find some fault in me. Or they can just come back and say, if you want to talk about my problems, let's talk about yours. And so they can have agitation and irritability and annoyance. And then if you press the issue, then it can come out in a very ugly and harsh kind of way. In fact, the louder or more raucous or more contemptuous a person is with their anger, you can guarantee that they're in a real high fear base. By the way, when dogs are afraid, we got case example number number one here, when they're barking and angry, the hair on the back of their necks typically is standing up. And it's like, yeah, I'm sounding really mean out on the outside, but on the inside, I'm wondering, what are you going to do to me? And that can be the way that a human can be. The defensiveness, the fear that pushes it of a narcissist can be so ingrained it can be impulsive. And there are a couple of things that the narcissist is ultimately worried about. Number one, they're worried about being judged. And they learned a long time ago that this is a judgmental world when you just put yourself out there, your thoughts, your feelings, or sometimes you show up. People can automatically begin judging. And each one of us can have our moments where we wonder, well, where am I going to stand today in another person's judgment? And then a second thing that they worry about is just the rejection that can come with poor judgments. And so narcissists are hyper concerned about maintaining their image in such a way that if there's even a hint that judgment or rejection is coming, then they throw their walls up and it comes out as anger. But we can see just based on this person's illustration, I try to talk to my sister and it just up come the walls automatically. Then that's what we're dealing with. Let's take it a little bit further. Another person asks, what is your definition of fear? What seems to trigger a narcissist's fears the most? Well, what I did is I decided, well, I'm going to consult Mr. Webster on this one. And I looked it up in the dictionary, and here's what I came up with. Fear is the anticipation of danger. Fear is the expectation of unwanted intrusion. Fear is the belief that someone will cause pain. Fear is the inability to trust. Now, you take every single one of those, and it applies just like a hand in a glove to where the narcissist is. They anticipate danger. In other words, you're causing trouble for me, aren't you? They expect that you're being intrusive. Hey, look, I have an agenda and you're about to step all over my agenda, aren't you? You don't want to do things the way I want. That's their controlling nature. They have a belief that someone's going to cause pain. The narcissist can think, yeah, the longer I'm hanging out with you, then the more it's going to hurt me because you just make my life miserable, or you have the wrong impression of me, or if you say something or think something that's not flattering about me, are you going to go out there and try to make everybody else think the same thing too? And then in addition, they have an inability to trust, and that seems to be baked into the narcissist. In fact, part of narcissism can many times come across as paranoia. It's like, what are you up to now? How's it going to mess up my life? When you differ from me, you're somebody that's just going to make my life miserable. Let's get to the bottom of this and let's eliminate it. And by it, they mean you. And so when you are engaging with narcissists, almost, like I said, almost never are they going to say, yes, I actually have a fear of you. It'll come out as accusations. It'll come out as, counterattacks or justification, rationalization, and then they start projecting. They see in you what they don't want you to see in themselves. For example, if the narcissist has a real big problem with being critical, they'll say, you're the most critical person I've known. So if they can take that preemptive strike on you, then it is watered down when you try to do it in reverse toward them. They have all sorts of tricks. But the vast majority of them are so inclined toward this because it's been built into their psyche from such an early age that they never learn to pull out of it, and therefore it's so automatic, it's so first nature, they don't see the fear that's there, but it's there. Now, let's keep in mind, every one of us is going to have our moments of defensiveness, but there's a difference between that narcissistic, deeply paranoid kind of fear base versus just healthy self-preservation. For example, I'm sure that you have been around people, I have, that have actually proved to be a not trustworthy person. And so when that person comes along and they're asking open-ended questions about what are you up to or what you're thinking? And I'm thinking, in times past, this has not worked out well when I've tried to make myself vulnerable. Then you know that there are times when we can go gray rock and you can say something like, well, that's just not something I want to get into, or I just had a concern and I thought I would address it. And you just give minimal kind of responses. That's not the same as the hard, deeply fear-based responses that the narcissist has. And so we want to make a distinction between defensiveness and being self-preserving. Okay, now one last thought and comment. This person says, scared doesn't even begin to describe the inner experience of a narcissist that's faced with the truth about who they really are or aren't. Good way to put it. No matter how tough they try to appear, they're extremely fragile. And that fragility is a calling card of the narcissist. And like I say, it can come out as anger and snapping at you and rage and, just rejecting you or walking away. But ultimately, these are deeply and profoundly insecure people who just can't think or can't say, differences don't have to be interpreted harshly. The narcissist can't even comprehend the healthy thought that says, well, when we have conflicts or when we have differences, perhaps we can learn from one another. If someone comes to me and says, you're confusing me, or I didn't like the way you handled this, or that just seemed to make no sense at all, I can think, you don't have the right to talk to me that way, fear. Or I can think, I know I'm flawed and I'm imperfect. And so if you're trying to point something out that makes no sense to you, I'm listening. Narcissists cannot think that way to save their life. It's like, you're after me, aren't you? And what they do is they flip it around and they make it all about you. I'm hoping, based on our discussion here today, that when you witness the defensiveness, the fear, the anger, and the accusations of the narcissist, you can understand they want to make it about you when in fact they have this sense that says, you're bringing pain to me. And they don't know how to deal with that. And so this is what they do. It's not about you. It's about them and their unfinished business. And frankly, so much of their reactions are subconsciously based. And so with that lack of awareness, they're going to keep on doing it. But the more you see it, the more you can stay out of the whirlwind that they try to pull you into. So, Team Healthy, thanks for sending these questions and comments in. If you have any more that you want to send in, please do so, because I take them and I put them in my folder on my computer. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. We're going to keep more of these coming towards you. I really like this Unbound format, so thanks for participating in it with me. Now, many of you know that I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. The reason I do that is because the fact is, so many of you have sought out counseling yourself, or you think, where can I find counseling? Some of you are in places where the availability is not that strong, and so we have the online resource there with BetterHelp. All you have to do is go through the link that we have below and answer a few questions. You can select a therapist, and you'll be on your way. As the need is there, get the help that would be warranted. Now, also on my website, I have lots of resources, and I put them there for therapeutic reasons. You have they're very extensive. I have my courses, which would take a lot of work from you, and it can be very exciting to walk through each of the videos and the handouts that each of the courses have. We have them on anger, on boundaries, on healthy connections, on finding yourself despite the controller. It's all on the website there. I also have my webinars, which are 90-minute PowerPoint presentations, a little bit different, and then we have lots of articles, and then my books. So we have plenty of resources. Guys, when narcissists come at you with their anger, with their defensiveness, etc., know that there's a fear that's pushing it. The more you can see into it, then the more you can stay objective in the way that you respond to them. And that's the game plan that we have here. I hope that you can find your steadiness so that you can also be the person of peace that the narcissist isn't going to contribute to. But nonetheless, as you individuate yourself from them, then indeed you can be a person of steadiness and peace.